The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Welcome again to another edition of Mission Minded. Keep in mind your mission on your mind. We do this show every Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. right here on 1.1 The Truth. And just to make sure our tech is good, is my special guest in the studio. Mark, are you there?
I'm right here waiting, ready to go.
I love that. All right, Mark, before we go through pleasantries and I introduce you to the show here, this is a business Christian show. Michael Coleman, my partner, who is the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank, had some other things going on this evening, so he couldn't join the show, but it worked out really well for a man named Mark Davis, who we'll introduce in just a few seconds. Before we do that, though, we always like to open the show with a quick prayer in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord Jesus, you have given us another wonderful, blessed day. It's just an amazing week with this brand new show that we start here on Monday. You have filled our brains, filled our chompers, filled our mouths with the right words, and we continue to testify and relieve ourselves of bondage so we can live your life. And Lord, we realize that there are no coincidences in life, and that your plan is perfect, and that every time we meet someone or we talk to someone, there is a reason behind that, and that is why we have our special guest on the show tonight. We're so blessed to have him on. Please be with us as we break bread and talk your name, Lord, and continue to talk about business here on 101.1 The Truth. Amen. All right, without further ado, this guy right here has done just about everything. He's an inventor. He's a veteran. He's an author. He's a nuclear consultant. He's a structural engineer. Just a few things that this man wears hats for. And he's a pretty amazing guy. His name is Mark Davis. And a lot of people in the Birmingham area know Mark because he's a normal kind of guy. And you probably see the guy around here despite the fact that he's a nuclear consultant. A lot of people know who Mark Davis is. Mark, welcome to Mission Minded. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you, Tony. It's great to be on your show today and share my story.
It's great to have you on, too. Take it back just a little bit. You and I have known each other for, golly, a long time. We have a mutual friend named Kurre who I know from church at Our Lady of the Valley. And so you and I reconnected just several weeks ago through another mutual friend of ours. His name's Charles Allen, who's an inventor of his own and an amazing individual. And he's out at the beach right now with his lovely bride. I hope they're having a wonderful time as they reconnect with themselves. But I knew your story. I knew what you're all about. And the way I knew you was because of something you invented. Was it 1997 or 1998? Was it?
Actually, 1989.
1989. Okay, so I got my numbers back. So it was a decade earlier. Tell people what you were famous for. Tell people what you're famous for inventing.
Well, about 37 years ago, God woke me up in the middle of the night with an idea. And the way the story goes is I was traveling around all the nuclear power plants. I trained inspectors for the nuclear power industry. And I played a lot of softball. And as I traveled around, I squeezed a tennis ball. And everybody, you remember the old spring-loaded hand grips we used to use?
Yeah.
Yeah, those things hurt your hand. So I used a tennis ball. And as I traveled around all the nuclear power plants, I used to squeeze this tennis. Well, 1989, I'm in Atlanta. I've got a meeting with General Electric to set up training programs for the nuclear inspectors all over the world. What I do is three-dimensional ultrasound and x-ray work on welds and pipes and petrochemical plants and stuff like that.
And I think we lost Mark.
I lived in Charlotte at the time.
I'm not sure. I do not hear Mark talking on the air, so I don't know if we're still rolling or not.
And I go to bed early that night to be fresh for the meeting.
And I'm assuming we are. Mark, can you hear me?
And at midnight, God wakes me up in the middle of the night and puts this idea
Mark, are you there? Mark, if you want to go back out and come back in because I cannot hear you. And I know that we are still connected. But Mark Davis, our special guest here, he's an inventor, a veteran, author, a nuclear consultant, a structural engineer. And when I talk about all the things that Mark has done, you're like, yeah, the guy wears a lot of hats. He's a pretty amazing individual, just an amazing guy. He also works with a wonderful foundation called Vets for Vets that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Again, Mark, if you can hear me, please. I tell you what. Can we take it back to the studio for just a second here and just play some background music just for a minute so we can reconnect with Mark and let him know what the situation is, so we know exactly what's happening here on the air. That would be wonderful, and I will set things up. So if you'll please go ahead and play something back at the radio station, that would be wonderful.
So that's how I conceived the idea, and I had my meeting with General Electric that morning.
Stand by.
squirming in my chair. I got to get out of here. I got to go back to Charlotte. I need to see a patent attorney. So while driving back to Charlotte at the time, it hit me, instead of the exercise egg, it hit me exerciser. And so basically, got back home, called a neighbor of mine. He was an attorney. I said I need to see a patent attorney. So he sends me his patent attorney, and I go talk to him. You can't patent it, you can't trademark it, you can't sell it. It's too generic a shape. And so basically what happened was we were in his conference room. He pointed to an ashtray sitting on the table. He said, it'd be like me trying to patent that ashtray. It's too generic a shape. So I went home. I was just miserable. I was sulking all day long. I sulked for about 3 or 4 days. So later, I called a friend of mine that was an inventor. His name's Jerry Wood. We worked together up in Charlotte. And I told him I didn't tell him the idea. I just told him I had this idea, and the patent attorney didn't like it. He said, Mark, I'm going to give you first advice as an inventor. If you're sick, you go get a second opinion. So he sent me to his patent attorney, who loved the idea. He charged me $1,000 up front. I just started my consulting business in 1988, and I didn't have a lot of money, and then he charged me $100 per month. So that got the patenting process going for the exerciser.
Now, back up just a little bit because, again, we've got so much to get into here. We have a full hour here on Mission Minded. So, your story is absolutely amazing, and we had a little technical difficulty, so I couldn't hear some of your stuff. But thank goodness I've already heard your story. So, you did mention the fact that you got a second opinion, and then you said he charged you $1,000. I know there's a lot of companies out there that are more than willing to tell you that your recipe or your invention is fantastic if you're willing to stroke a check so they can do some further detail on it. When you realized you had something special in that second person, how did you know it was a real deal? How did you know?
Well, so I guess the way I found out it was a real deal was that morning I put an egg in my hand. I said, that kind of feels good in the hand. It matches the shape of the hand. So when I got home, I got one of my kids' Easter eggs. I still have it. And I put that plastic Easter egg, and I just kind of squeezed it. I said, this is really cool. But now I got to figure out how to go make it. So the original idea was create a tennis ball that had the cover of a tennis ball was called flocking. So I was going to take an egg-shaped tennis ball and put flocking on it. So I talked. Now
what's hold on? What's flocking?
Flocking is that fuzzy stuff that's on the outside of a tennis ball. You see it lined in jewelry boxes and things like that. That's called flocking. Yeah. So it puts a fuzzy coating on the outside. My idea was to recreate the tennis ball into an egg shape. But it's too expensive. Tennis ball said, forget it, it's not going to work for you. So try just looking at a solid rubber. So my first eggs were made down in Alabaster at Specification Rubber. It was basically a neoprene rubber, but it was too hard. It was about as hard as car tires. So we didn't get any compression. We put flocking on there. We made them fuzzy and what have you, and they were colorful and what have you. And people liked it, liked the feel of it, the texture, but it really didn't take off until about 1991. The mold that I used, my $8,000 mold that I used to make the eggs, started malfunctioning. It started shifting.
Yeah, and this is the part of the story that's really cool. This is
really cool.
Right
so this is really a God thing. So I sent my $8,000 mold back up to Ohio, and I'm talking to the engineer there. He said it's going to cost you $2,000 to make fix your $8,000. Well, in the meantime, before that, I'd heard of this material called sorbothane, developed by British Trying Rubber back in the 80s. It's a patented rubber to simulate the physics of human skin. So I'd search, we didn't have the internet to search a lot of stuff back then. Yeah. So I'm talking to him, explaining to him. He knew I was marketing the egg, and he just all of a sudden said, Mark, you need to make this egg out of sorbothane. I said, that's it. Where did I get that? I can't find it. And this is a God thing. He said, well, my girlfriend works over there. You want her phone number?
Yeah.
Is that not God opening a door or what?
No, that's pretty amazing. Let me ask you this. So you came up with this idea in the middle of the night, 1989. You're talking about 2 years, really, and quite frankly, it could have been 10 years. That would have been a better story, Mark. But you only took 2 years to figure out you had something kind of special. But having gone through this process myself, and I've been going through it the last, I guess it's been about 4.5 years, and this is something that you and I are going going to have further discussions on, because you're going to be bringing something to Mission Minded here on the show. It's going to be really, really cool. We have a beautiful partnership that's going to be starting here in the next few shows. We're really excited about that. But you talked about the fact that you lost sleep and you knew that you needed to go get a second opinion. Talk a little bit about how your faith in Jesus and how your love of our Lord and Jesus Christ got you through some of those tough times. And quite frankly, I mean, you know that maybe 1 in 3,000 or 4,000 inventions actually see the light of a patent and everything else that you've gone through. Just talk about that and how that concreted your relationship with your Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, at the time, I was not a Christian. I was raised in Montgomery. We grew up in a Christian church, in St. James Methodist Church down in Montgomery. I went to Lanier High School, and we went to church every Sunday. And my father died when I was 14. He died of leukemia. He was a Korean War veteran and got leukemia and died within 13 months. And so, you just kind of fall away from church. You go to college and stuff like that. So I just fell away from church. So at the time, I knew when and why I wanted to go to church, but I was traveling on Sunday, back on Friday, and just didn't take the time to commit to go to church. And what happened was my other brother actually led me back to Christ. And so my brother would get my son and my daughter and take them to Shades Mountain Baptist Church and take them every Sunday while I was traveling. And then my kids started talking to me, "Hey, Dad, come on, go to church with us." So we started going to Shades Mountain Baptist Church. And then October of 1992, I think that day's right, we joined and were baptized at Shades Mountain Baptist Church.
How about that?
So before all this came along.
And how old were you when that happened?
I was 89, I was probably about 35, 36 years old, I guess.
So you were in Jesus land there. Yeah, that's good.
That's exactly right. So, I believed in God, but I just know when and why you go to church, and just never put it as a priority. And then when my kids started getting me going, that's when my life changed. And that's when there's a lot of other doors that have been opened by God. And one of the things to share with everybody is that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office says that only 1 in 500 ideas ever make it to market. Mm-hmm. And even if you get a patent, only 2 or 3 out of 1,000 patents ever get successfully marketed. Wow. But really what happens, Tony, is it all goes back to your spiritual gifts. And I didn't know this at the time. I didn't really figure out, I'm still a young Christian today. I'm still learning. I'm still reading the Bible every day. But if you go back and look at Corinthians 12, 4-6, and I'll read it to you. There are different kinds of, and everybody knows this, there are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit gives them. There are different ways of serving, but the same Lord is served. There are different abilities to perform service, but God gives ability to everyone for their service. And the facts about your abilities are this. Every ability is given by God. Every ability can be used to God's glory. My ability shows God's plans for my life. If I don't use them, I'll lose them. So, that's where I started, and I left Shades Mountain Baptist Church, I think in 94, 95, my banker at AmSouth for my company, Exerciser. Well, it's called Extra Enterprises with the name of the company. And Paul Huckabee invited me to Hunter Street Baptist Church, and been over there ever since, and just fell in love with the church. And so I do a lot of speaking and teaching. I speak at churches. I speak at high school. I used to teach kids inventing. And it's not an easy thing. And there's a whole process and procedure. I've got 12 steps I talk about later of the inventing process and how you go through that.
Yeah, and real quick, because you could talk in the next 60 minutes, and I wouldn't get a word in edgewise. So because I know you, and I know how much you love to talk, but I have to back up because you go so fast, and there's so many great things about your story. We could do this. We could do the show for a week and not hear the same thing twice. Well, I loved your story about how you became Christian and how you found your Lord Jesus Christ. Yep. And I guess my question was, I'm seeing a lot of similarities here between the process of making an invention or creating something in your mind and then putting it on paper and then actually getting something, in your particular case, something that's actually something you can hold in your hand and then actually getting it to market. I see a similarity between that and how most people become Christian and how we find Jesus Christ. Talk about the similarities between you making this invention and how you ultimately became a Christian.
Well, I'm trying to think how I can explain that.
I mean, and just the faith part of it, because listen, when you're talking about 1 in 500 actually getting made, and then 4 out of 1,000 actually getting to the marketplace, the one thing that and this is the similarities that I certainly felt by you discussing this, was that faith is such a huge part of our lives, and faith without works is dead. We realize that, but when you're going through a process like this and you're being told over and over and over again, this is not going to work, this is not going to work, this is dumb, this is stupid, it's just an egg, why are you doing this, you're not going to make, you just have to believe, and the only way that God's going to bless you with that belief is to believe wholeheartedly and go all in, and you did that.
Yep, I did. And I know God was there. I know he closed doors for me. I know he opened doors for me. I mean, there was a time when I got involved with some bad marketing companies in the beginning, and I licensed a company, exerciser to this company. I found out they were stealing from me. They were selling my eggs at a higher price, and I remember fighting through the attorneys and everything to get my company back because these people were crooks. And I remember laying in a hotel room. I was out of town. I was trying to get everything set up. And I just laid on the floor and cried and just said, God, help me, please. I don't know what to do. And we ultimately got them back. So, I mean, I've got hundreds of stories like that where I know God was there pushing me, directing me, don't go here, go there. And it's just part of my story.
You have worked with so many wonderful organizations. You've created so many wonderful organizations, including Vets for Vets, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and that's going to go national. The Alabama Fallen Warriors Project, also Tunnel to Towers. I wanted to mention that real quick because you got some exciting news earlier today. Please share that with our audience.
Yeah, the 3 of the fallen warriors that died in the plane crash in Iraq, I've been trying to connect with them. And I'm doing some work now with Tunnels to Tower, not direct, I'm not employed by them, but I'm just advising them. We're trying to help some veterans, but we just got approved last November. Tunnels to Towers commissioned or dedicated a hotel over near the Colonnade to be just for homeless veterans. We dedicated the building. Second quarter of next year, there's going to be 110, not part-time, full-time apartments for homeless veterans in need. And so I'm working with some churches right now so that when they get that open, we might go over there and say, take pizza over on one Wednesday night or Tuesday night or something like that, and just sit with the veterans, talk to them, maybe share the faith with them, tell them about God and stuff like that. So that's my first connection with them. And on this one, I just sent Tunnels of Tower, the lady I'm working with out of Tampa. She's the regional director for Tunnels of Tower here. And I told them about the 3 veterans from Birmingham area that were killed, Clinner, Pruitt, and Savino. And I sent them a note and I said, hey, we need to look at trying to help these veterans. They have families and kids and stuff like that. 2 minutes later, the vice president of Tunnels of Tower called me up. Funny story is he's from Trussville, and I met him in November.
How about that?
And he calls me up and said, Mark, do these people have kids? I said, yeah, they got kids. So this afternoon I got a note that Tunnels of Tower was going to be speaking directly with the families to try and help them out. And there's already a lot of outpouring support to help them now just in the local area. And this is all through, I'm just doing this through Vets for Vets and the Alabama Fallen Warriors Project.
That is fantastic. You are also a former chairman of the board of the Greater Birmingham Habitat for Humanity. Here's a neat little story for you, and just to realize just how big we're grains of sand on the beach of life, but how really small this world is. You and I actually worked together on a Habitat for Humanity when I was doing Rock 99, when I was doing classic rock radio. I don't remember the year. It was in the 90s.
1996. The
1996, and I was doing...
Olympics were here.
Yeah, that's right. The Olympics were down there at Legion Field, and I remember fondly, I think the USA was playing Guatemala, because I remember that I adopted my 2 sons from Guatemala about 15 years later. No, we were sitting there, we were trying to set a record to build the quickest home ever, and I think that record still holds, and you were telling this story while we were eating lunch, and I was like, Mark, I was there, man. I was right there because everything had to be prefabbed. All the electricity had to be done and everything. And we built a house. How fast did it get built?
Well, if I can, let me back up a minute before I get to that.
Sure.
Really, there's two parts of the story. So the first house we built that we got involved with was the Olympic home that was 4 blocks from Legion Field where the soccer Olympics were. And we built that house over a period of time. And then I was just a Habitat volunteer at the time. And then in the late 90s, about the time I started, I wrote the book From Mind to Market, I became chairman of the board for Habitat for Humanity. And here's the funny story. So I travel around the world teaching people to do inspections on nuclear power plants and petrochemical plants and things like that. So I was working in Auckland, New Zealand. And usually when I travel around the world, I've been to Russia 8 times, training the Russians and stuff like that. I'd either tie up with a missionary group or a Habitat for Humanity group. So I actually tied up with a Habitat for Humanity group in Auckland, New Zealand. And so they took me out to dinner that night. Then they took me to their subdivision. They said, this is our Habitat village we've got. And they pointed to this one house. And they said, you see that house? I said, yeah. They said, that's the world's fastest house. I said, what do you mean? So we built that in 3 hours, 44 minutes, and 59 seconds. I said, wow. So on my way back from New Zealand, I stopped over in Honolulu. I usually spend the night there, so it gives me a chance to recover a little bit and then get back.
Yeah.
So I called back to Habitat and I say, we're going to break the world record in Birmingham.
Wow.
So it took me 2 years to do it. This was about 99 or 2000, I think it was, when I was there. And of course, everybody thought I was crazy when I broached the idea. And I went through 2 or 3 contractors, said, yeah, we'll do it. And then they backed away. And then finally, through the Associated General Contractors, the AGC, they came together and said, we'll help you break this record. So to make a long story short, December 17th of 2002, we broke the world record for the fastest Habitat house. We built a Habitat house in 3 hours, 26 minutes, and 34 seconds. And if you go to YouTube and search world's fastest Habitat house, you'll see a 90-second video of this thing just boom, it's done. It took 200 people, Alabama Power, Bell South at the time, Amica Insurance, and Lowe's were my sponsors.
Yeah, like, and everybody, just to give you an idea, everyone is there on scene. Like the plumbers had to be ready. Everyone had to be sitting there on a dime to pull this thing out. That was so amazing that everyone could work together like that. It was amazing. Go ahead.
It was. So basically, we broke the record. The record still stands. I've actually been working with 2 or 3 other Habitats groups. They get into it and they say, yeah, great idea, we can't do it. And so actually I want somebody to break the record and do it in 3 hours and 16 minutes. John 3:16.
Oh, nice.
So, but I'm still working on that. I've got a lot of things on my plate with all the other projects.
You know
too.
what?
So
you got yourself a 100,000 watt stick right here in 101.1 The Truth. It's the biggest stick in the state. We're on from 5 to 6 p.m., which is the best hour on radio. We're on every Monday through Friday. Let us be behind it.'We'll get behind it, and we'll make sure that we've got everything you need. We've got all the connections. We'll make that happen. We can network this thing right here.
Fantastic. I would love to do that because I've still got the trophy in my man cave. My wife says we need to get rid of that.
No. 941-1011, 941-1011. If you'd like to give us a call on the show, we'd love to hear from you. 941-1011, 866-551-9933. Also, info@missionmindedradio@gmail.com. You can leave us emails, give us some ideas, and of course, we're going to be talking about business, and we talk about Jesus, and it's kind of a business/Christian show. It's just wonderful. Now, my partner, Michael Coleman, who spent the better part of 2 decades in the armed forces, and I was also disabled, talks about just how important the service was to him. He's an amazing individual, and much like myself, I see a lot of the similarities between what we were doing and feeling and acting like when we're in our 20s and we're idiots and we're not really thinking a lot about Jesus and God when we fall away from the church. I was the same way. I was a Catholic. I went to church every Sunday. I served for 8 years under Archbishop Bernardine. I did the whole 9 yards, and my mom would make me go to church. She'd make me go to church. I wanted to go to church, but then as soon as you move away from the house, what normally happens, you find girls and you start drinking and you don't go to church anymore. You set Sunday mornings are a little too early. I'm going to church, but you're really not. But I wanted you to talk about how your service in the armed forces played into your Christianity as well. What did you learn from an obedience standpoint, from a complacency standpoint? Talk about how those are similar with each other. I think that's amazing too.
Right. Well, what the military teaches you is process and procedure. And a little background, I grew up in Montgomery, went to Linear High School. I was dyslexic. I was a very bad student. I had poor reading comprehension. The best thing the military taught me, and I know this is not the spiritual part, but this is, God had his hand on my shoulder the whole way, because I should not have been able to do what I do today, because I got kicked. I went to Walker College up in Jasper. Went in on academic probation. After 3 semesters of being on academic probation, they said, you got to go home. So that was December of 72. So I come back to Montgomery. I tell my mom I'm going to join the Navy. She said, "No, I'm not going to let you go. You're going to get sent to Vietnam." I said, "Mom, Dad was in the Korean War and he did fine." She said, "I'm not going to let you go." I finally had to tell her, "I'm 19. You can't stop me." So I joined anyway. She wasn't real happy with me, and I didn't go to Vietnam. I was in the amphibious Navy, so I didn't go but I served during the Vietnam War. I could have gone, so I'm classified really as a Vietnam era veteran. So when I get in the Navy, of course, I went to some services we had on church, what have you. Got married in a church in Norfolk, Virginia at the time where I was stationed, and but still, I didn't know when and why to go to church. And this is in the 70s. So I worked. I originally was a firefighter, welder, plumber, carpenter, firefighter. Re-enlisted to work on nuclear submarines. But what the military gave me was the idea that I needed to learn. But I had to learn the job. But what they did, they ranked us every one of our classes. So in the beginning, I was ranked 14th, 15th. I was at the bottom of the list most of the time. I didn't have good math skills. I didn't have good reading skills. But then things started to connect, and I really. Give God the glory for that, because through that, I know He was guiding me. And so I just spent 6.5 years in the Navy. I didn't retire like Michael did. Michael spent, I think he said 22 years or something like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He's retired Army. And but when I got out, God was still leading me, because I went to work for Duke Power when I got out of the Navy. Then Alabama Power calls me and they said, "Hey, we want you to come down here and work for us." So I worked for Alabama Power and Southern Company. I was the chief inspector for all the nuclear power plants in the Southern Electric system, Hatch, Farley, and Vogtle. And then I started my own company. But again, it doesn't go back until my Christian belief and faith didn't really start. Truly until we started at Shades Mountain Baptist Church. And I think that really was a pivotal point. And, to be baptized with your kids is an amazing thing.
Oh, man. I can only imagine. His name is Mark Davis. He's our special guest here. Michael Coleman, who's my co-host, of course, will be back tomorrow from 5 until 6 right here on 101.1 The Truth. It's a brand new show called Mission Minded. We're on every single day, 5 to 6 p.m. Of course, Mark is an inventor, a veteran, author, a nuclear consultant, a structural engineer. He's done just a little bit of everything. We're hearing his amazing story. And he's going to be in partnership with us. You're going to be hearing him a little bit more. Yeah. Right here on our wonderful radio station in our new show, thanks to our good friend Charles Allen, who introduced us again after about 15 or 20 years of not seeing each other. I want to go back. When I first heard that I was going to be meeting the guy who created the exerciser, I was like, no way, because I followed the George Foreman story. By the way, George Foreman did not create the George Foreman grill; he just put his name on it.
That's right.
But there is not a person out there listening right now that has not had an idea at some point in their life.
Yep.
Somewhere,
right.
Maybe you dreamt about it, maybe you told somebody about it, maybe you had too much to drink, whatever, and you're sitting around going, this would be a great idea. And then I think what gets most of us, and I say us because I'm in the same boat, I'm in the middle of creating something. What makes most of us stop doing it is we always think, well, if someone had thought about this before, they've obviously already tried it and it didn't work. How do you know when you came out with something as easy as just a piece of rubber in your hand, something you sold 3 million of? How did you find out whether that was something that had been broached before? And then when you found out it wasn't, how'd you keep it secret?
Well, the first thing is, let's talk about the process of vetting. First, there's the idea. And then the next thing is idea disclosure. So back before, I think it's about 1997, 1998, the old way of doing things was the way you recorded your idea. You'd write everything down on a piece of paper, draw sketches, whatever, put it in an envelope, mail it back to you. So that postmark, when you got that back, that documented when you conceived the idea. Today, the way you protect your patent is what's called a provision. It's called a poor man's patent or a provisional patent. And what you do, you can actually file it yourself. But a guy named Don Kelly, who was the under-commissioned secretary for the patent commissioner, he developed this idea. He's a good friend of mine. He actually wrote a chapter in my book, and his wife was a patent attorney. She wrote a chapter too. But what the provisional patent does, when you fill out, you get a registration from the patent office, says this is your idea. So you have a 12-month window to go out, build a prototype, write a business plan, find a manufacturer, do all these different things. And then if you find out you've got a home run in the 11th month, then you better go file a full patent, either a provisional patent or utility patent. And that's how you get this process going. Then you got to figure out how to make your prototype.
Yeah, and that's the next big question. A lot of people have ideas, but they are just improvements on ideas.
Recreation of things that have already been invented. That's exactly
absolutely.
right.
I always talk about the pickle. The pickle's a pickle, but no matter how you slice it, and it goes for Mexican food too. It's a burrito is the same as an enchilada, is the same as a taco, is the same as a feta. They're all the same. They have the same ingredients. It's just the shell that makes it sound differently. So you have sandwich stackers, you have dill chips, you have spears, you have dill pickle. The pickle's a pickle. It's just how you slice it and how you market it. And by the way, every time you cut it, you can actually charge more for it, which is kind of silly. I think that's always kind of funny that sliced pickles cost more than whole dill pickles. I'm not sure why that's the case, but that's and we pay for it too. So you've got an idea. Let's say it's something that needs to be built. And I remember this story. You and I may have talked about the guy was creating something for the grill. It was supposed to be a grill robot.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. Yeah, and this guy, I've seen stories on him, and he's been, he mortgaged his house like 4 times over, went through a divorce, the whole 9 yards, took every penny he had in the world on it, and I don't know if it ever, I know there's something out there that is on the market. I don't know if it works very well, because the problem was it was never heavy enough to really take the grit off the grill. But basically it was a self-cleaning, it was like a Roomba for a grill.
Right.
You just put it on, and it had to withstand, a certain temperature, obviously, because it's hot, this, that, and the other. So, but when you're talking about building some type of prototype, for example, and again, God was helping you big time. The fact that you ran into an individual, had a girlfriend that knew this rubber compound, which is just crazy.
Isn't that amazing?
That is insane. It really is. That is crazy. So you got this idea. You think it's a great idea. Then how do you find someone to actually build it? Or what's your next step after you've maybe filled out a patent thing? Go ahead.
I got the idea for you. All right. Back when I started, there's a thing called a set of books called the Thomas Registry. Have you ever seen them?
I have not.
All right, they're in the library, and this is before the internet. Remember, all this really was occurring we were doing emails in the 80s, and that was about it. So,
yeah.
But the Thomas Registry is a set of lime-colored green books, legal-sized paper. There's about 38 volumes of them. And if you go to the library, they're 2-inch thick hardbound books. And let's say you have an automotive equipment. Well, you can go in those books. You can actually do it online now. And you go in, you look under radios, and you find everybody that's making everything to do with radios. So what I did, I didn't have the internet. I just had to dial by dollars. And so you go into Thomas Registry, and you say, okay, I want to figure out how to make this or that or what have you. That's where you can start at. You can do it online now. Because most people don't know how to make that. I didn't know how to make a rubber egg at the time, but I learned a lot. And but let me tell you a couple of side stories here, Tony. First, there was a guy that invented this baseball, and it's a sad story, but it's a good story to tell. How you have to be careful when you protect your idea. So, this guy had a baseball, and it had color-coordinated fingerprints on it to teach kids how to hold the ball to throw curves and sliders and things like that.
Nice. Yeah.
So the guy didn't have a patent, didn't have any intellectual property protecting it. All he had was an NDA. So he met with a major sporting goods company, told him about the idea and everything. A lawyer sent the guy to me. He said, see if you can help this guy. And he met with them, showed him the idea. They said, nice idea, we're not interested. 6 months later, they're importing his product from Taiwan.
See,
He had no patent protection, and he went back to him and said, hey, you stole my idea. I said, no, you must have talked to somebody. This company came to us and just sold it to us. I'm not going to mention names, but that's what happened. And then so that's just where you got to get your protection first. Now, there's 2 things to look at. There's a patent, and then there's a trademark. I never won my patent on Exerciser. You think, well, why, Mark? Well, what happened was I kept refiling. It allowed me to keep patent pending on my package. Mm-hmm. So nobody knew what I patented. I patented the rubber, the egg, the packaging, whatever. But my patent attorney, because I changed patent attorneys over the years, said, Mark, you have more protection in the stylization of the logo Exerciser, and you've created a brand with your colors. So orange is super soft, green is soft, blue is medium, and purple is firm. Yeah. And so you got to work through all those procedures and processes for that.
So you're saying Yeah, and explain that again, because it's not. It's not necessary for you to have a patent, but it is important. Actually, obviously, to have patent pending. I am actually in that position right now where my patent is pending.
Now. That's right.
So that was obviously when that happened. That was super exciting. But just talk about the trademark part and really the name Exerciser. How important was it to make sure that you had the old TM next to that bad boy?
Well, it's interesting. Funny story. The name Exerciser, my brother wanted to call it Eggerciser. He wanted to leave the S off instead of eggs. Mm-hmm. I said, Matt, he has a marketing company. He helped me out a whole lot. Eggs is phonetically like EX, okay? So once we got that, and the E is actually a big E. I mean, the shape of an egg is actually the E of the logo. And so keeping that on, actually, I sold the trademark. Well, let's see. Let me back up. So I was in People magazine in 1998. A company came along in Chattanooga, Tennessee, said, if you'll license us the distribution rights to Exerciser for the medical market, we'll take over your whole retail market. So they kept doing it for years. And we got a small royalty over it, not much. You don't make a whole lot of money on royalties. But then a guy comes along, the company in Chattanooga went under during COVID. A guy approached me out of New York, said, hey, I want to buy your trademark. And so we sold the trademark for some money and made some money on the trademark. So sometimes trademarks are more valuable than patents, but you got to remember your intellectual property protection. Somehow you got to keep people from knocking you off. Okay.
Yeah, and that's
go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's the part that, and having gone through this process myself, that's the part that I want to tell everyone, but I can't tell anyone. And you can do non-disclosures out the yin yang, and you just because everyone's like, well, just tell me what it is, and you're like, you really don't want to share anything because
that's right.
And again, normally it's an idea like. It's amazing to me. For example, and this has got to make you scratch your head because it's not always the invention of the trademark or the patent, it's the marketing behind it. The marketing is so incredibly important. For example, there's this thing right now that you basically sit down and it's a stationary bicycle. It's I forget the name of it. I don't really want to help these people, but the commercials are on all the time. It's for old people. You can use it at your desk. It keeps your legs moving. It helps varicose veins. It helps plantar fasciitis. All these things. So you got this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, we've had this for 70 years. I mean, we've had stationary bicycles stationary bicycles as long as we've had bicycles. And so I'm trying to think to myself, okay, how in the world could someone take that idea and say, wow, that is a great improvement on this, and I think we can market that to the masses. Can you kind of explain that? Because just based off the commercial, I can see it's one of those things where at 3:00 in the morning, if you come in and you've had too many, you're probably going to order this thing. It's one of those things where you're going to see it. The other thing is the Plexiderm. I see that a lot. And I'm just bringing up some different things that have been out there for a long period of time, but they are marketing it a lot different. Dude wipes, another situation. We've had these wipes out forever, but the fact that they're calling them dude wipes, and now we're specifically making adult wipes for men, they're selling millions of them because, you put the stuff on one side, your stuff on the other, and you use toilet paper and it cleans and you use the side. I mean, the marketing is so important. Talk a little bit about that.
All right, marketing is really important, and a lot of that comes through publicity. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but they're just like a book writer has a publicist, like an actor has a publicist. There are publicists for products. So I used a friend of mine named Patrick Netter out of Los Angeles. His company is called Gadget Guru, and we met at a trade show. But let me back up and just kind of guide you through this. So marketing is everything. So as I said before, most inventions are just recreations of other things. That's how that peddling thing got there. We've seen that before. But let me share with you one of the things that really happened with marketing. And I didn't know anything about marketing. I was a technical guy. I wrote procedures and stuff like that. So back in and this is where right about the time I became a Christian. I can't remember before or after, but I was coming back home from Atlanta. I was standing there waiting to get on the plane. And there happened to be a Wall Street Journal there. And I picked it up. I never read the Wall Street Journal. I didn't have enough money. And so I happened to read this article by a guy named John Pearson with the Wall Street Journal that wrote up about this product. I don't remember what it was about. And so on my way home, I fly and I said, I'd write him a letter. So I wrote him a letter, sent him some eggs, and we're just now getting started. We just gotten into sorbitane material. So I sent him the eggs and didn't hear from him for 6 months. Then finally one afternoon, fortunately I was home, I got a phone call from, and it said, "This is John Pearson, Wall Street Journal." "Oh, hey, John, how you doing?" We started
6 months later. That's crazy.
6 months later, that's right. And so what happened was he said, "Look, I want to write about your exerciser." He said, "But I need two things. First, I need a medical endorsement." So Dr. Lee Mack endorsed me in the Wall Street Journal, and Dr. Lee Mack always tells me, he said, "Mark, you're the only guy that ever got me in the Wall Street Journal." And so, but he said, "But I want to know about some other products. So let me back up a little bit." So I've been trying to get into Brookstone. Y'all remember Brookstone? Mm-hmm. And at the time, in the early 90s, they had about 90 stores, and I've been trying to get into Brookstone. Well, they were selling this product called the Grip Gym. It's basically, it looked like a hand grenade, about the size of a hand grenade. It's coil springs. You squeeze it, and the springs would lay over, and it'd pinch your hand. And so they were phasing out of that. So basically, Brookstone told me, "Don't call us, we'll call you." Okay? Mm-hmm. So now let me back up. So John Pearson asked me about what are some other products. So I told him about the old spring-loaded hand grips. I mean, I found patented hand exercises devices all the way back to 1914 when we did our search.
Really? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So and there was hundreds of hand exercise devices on the market at the time. So then I did kind of what I call a dumb smart thing. I told John Pearson about the Grip Gym at Brookstone. "Well, Mark, you dummy, you're selling your competition in the Wall Street Journal." Well, let me tell you what happened. And this, again, is another God moment. And I can look back on it and see this is where God was steering me again. So the Wall Street Journal article hits. We got phone calls from everybody. They couldn't find Mark David. They thought I was a dentist over in Bessemer and what have you. They called Dr. Lee Mack's office. They called everybody. They couldn't find me at the time in the beginning. But guess who they called? They called Brookstone. We want to get the exerciser. 2 weeks after that story hit, I get an order for, I think it was 2,500 exercisers for Brookstone. They sold out in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So in 3 years, almost 3.5 years, we sold Brookstone over 500,000 exercisers.
That's amazing. And how many have you sold to this day?
About 3 million, I think. I've lost track of it because I've been kind of out of it since I licensed that company in Chattanooga. So I'm guessing it's probably 2.5 to 3 million exercisers. And, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's so amazing about this, and we're talking to Mark Davis, by the way. He's an inventor, veteran, an author, a nuclear consultant, structural engineer. He does it all. He's got a wonderful book. It's called From Mission. What's it called? From Mission to Market. From Mind to Market, as a matter of fact. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at it because it's right on the back of my toilet. It is some fantastic reading. In my office, that is the first office. Now the studio is my second office. But it is some fantastic reading. I got news for you. It's really good. You'll sit there for hours. And you're actually going back through the book right now, and you're going to republish it. We are going to be very, very proud in partnership with you in releasing that. And that's one of the things that you're going to be doing with us here on Mission Mind that we're super, super excited about. With the invention, of course, of the internet, it's funny. I have a doctor friend of mine, and he's like, our generation is going to be remembered for three things: the cell phone, the internet, and semaglutides. Weight loss medicines. He said it's going to change the world. You're going to walk into a doctor and say, "I want to weigh 158 pounds by May 1st," and they'll be able to do it and tell you exactly how to do it and this, that, and what kind of pill to take and everything else. But there are so many different ways now because everyone's doing podcasts. Everyone has a voice. Everyone can get on social media. Everyone can have a following. You can get on any marketplace or Facebook and start selling things in stores and everywhere. And then, of course, you have this thing called Shopify, which I've actually looked into. It is just one giant thrift store is what it is. And you can buy and sell just about anything on it. And again, I always tell people, listen, if you want to spend 14, 15, 16 hours a day working on something really, really hard and you believe in it, you can make anything you want to make happen. You can if you really are faithful enough to it. If you're one of these people that thinks you're going to work 5 or 6 hours a week and make an extra $100,000 on the side, good luck. It's not. It's a dream. It doesn't exist. It does not happen. Go sell, car insurance or something. Do something like that.
Yeah.
But how has the internet and the idea that we can mass market now through the internet as opposed to having a brick and mortar like we used to back in the 80s and 70s, how has that changed the whole marketing plan when it comes to inventions?
Well, it's that helps with your sales and marketing, even your distribution. You can open up your own store online now, and you don't need the brick boxes that you had. But back to the book. Let me tell you about this, because this kind of all ties into this. Okay, so from Mind to Mark, when I first started publishing Mind to Mark, I was self-published. I wrote the book myself. I had probably about 12 or 15 co-writers with me with that wrote different sections of the book. For example, one of the people we're going to have on the show is Russ Gachet. He's my patent attorney, and he wrote the chapters on patents, trademarks, copyright. So he is updating the chapters of that book for me to the current patent law. So we're going to do that. But back in 97, 98, when the book was out, and you never know when the devil's fighting you. And this is the thing that, the devil wants to take you down all the time. He wants to steer you in a different direction, what have you. So in my book, I gave the glory to God. Now, I wasn't trying to convert people with my book. I was trying to tell a story, but also tell the stories like I'm telling you now, where God opened a door for me, and I was faithful to him, and he was faithful to me, and what have you. So in 1998, I was in the second run of my books, and I had one guy writer. I was in the top 5% of the authors at Amazon.com in the late 90s. Wow. Okay? Wow. And the book was doing great. And but I had one guy write a review, and this is the devil. He wrote a review. It said this, I quote, "I cannot believe that through divine intervention, Mark Davis became a successful inventor. The book is nothing but fluff." Well, the book was reviewed by Dr. Marlene Reed at Sanford University. She was in the School of Business and Entrepreneurship. She said, "Mark, your book is so good." She said, this book is for anybody that wants to start a business. So it breaks down everything, the process and procedure, from manufacturing your invention, developing your business plan and marketing plan, sales, marketing, distribution, financing your invention, starting your business, joining an incubator, or if you want to license it, I jokingly say, show me the money. You just license it. But for the audience, remember this. When you have an idea, that's worth zero. You've got to get some intellectual property protection. You need a prototype. And the more little pieces you have, you get 1%, 0.5%, 2%. So you might get 1 or 2% royalty if you have some of these pieces, then license some company to do that. The other thing, and Charles will be able to talk about this later, is trade shows. You've heard the
and I was going to ask you that. Charles Allen, our good friend, he is the one that he will tell you that he invented the trade show. And he may very well have. There were no trade shows before Charles Allen existed on this earth. Just ask him. But yeah, trade shows are so vitally important because you have people coming to you in a controlled environment, and they can pretty much say, listen, if this would. So talk a little bit about how to do that and how to get involved in these trade shows.
Well, the first trade show I went to was in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was called the Charlotte Gift Show, and we sold a ton of eggs. Now, remember, it was a hard, fuzzy egg at the time. We stole a bunch of those. But the two biggest shows, well, three biggest shows. One was the National Sporting Goods Show in Atlanta, and then the NSGA show in Chicago, and then we went to a lot of orthopedic and physical therapy shows to sell the eggs. And that's where you meet your market. Not your maker, but your market. And I'll tell you one story. There was a lady called me at one time, and I used to speak to a lot of inventors. I'll tell you about Invent Alabama on another show. But this lady called me up one day and said, I got this idea. She's a soccer mom. She took her lawn chair with her to go watch her kids play soccer and everything. And she invented this device to clip on the armchair of the lawn chair, and it would hold her book, hold her drink, and what have you. And I said, ma'am, if you looked out for it, she said, I've been to Walmart, it ain't there. I go to a trade, I'm serious, it's funny. And I go to a trade show 2 weeks after that, and and this is where, I usually walk to trade shows to look at other products, see how they're marketing, stuff like that. And you meet fellow inventors and things like that. But the booth exactly behind my booth had exactly her invention.
Oh, wow. That is
and so
crazy.
When you go to the trade show, matter of fact, when you first start becoming an inventor and you've got an idea, what I tell everybody, go walk a trade show. Find a trade show, whatever market you're in, and Charles can relate. He knows all the trade shows. And go walk that show. You'll learn about packaging. There's success stories where people are at a trade show and they open up a booth. All they got is a table, their invention laying on the table. They don't really have anything. And what happens is when they're setting up the trade show, you know who's walking around? The vice president of sales and marketing for companies. And there are success stories where they see that price, said, we'll take your product. They ink out a contract on the table and they put his product in their booth. There's success stories like that. So if you want to learn your market, who you're going to sell to, find out who you need to sell to and go to that trade show.
That's amazing stuff. Mark Davis is our guest here. Very, very grateful to have him in as we do a week on gratitude. So we're very grateful to have Mark's time here. He's an inventor, a veteran, an author, a nuclear consultant, a structural engineer, not to mention stuff for Habitat for Humanity, Vets for Vet. You go on and on and on. It's amazing what this man has performed and done in his life, and he gives his service and gives his life to the Lord Jesus Christ, and we love that about everything he does. Talk a little bit about Shark Tank. You're going to be on our show. I don't want to blow our cover here, but I think we could probably make an announcement. You're going to be a big part of our show because we are a business show. We do it under the lens of Jesus Christ and of Christianity, but we're going to talk a lot of different business things. We had a great business show yesterday, and you're going to be bringing back, I think you talked about calling it Inventor's Garage or something along those lines. For people that are looking for an idea or have an idea and don't know what to do with it, you're going to be the guy to speak for. But I wanted you to mention what's your thoughts on a show like Shark Tank. Do you like it? Do you think it's a bunch of hullabaloo? What do you think?
No, I like Shark Tank. I think it's good. The only thing I don't like is when sometimes there's somebody's got an odd invention and they start belittling the inventors. I hate that part. But I think I wish Shark Tank had been around when I was doing it. But what happened in the 90s is I developed a program called Invent Alabama. And basically it's a resource network for inventors. We used to meet every once a month. We'd have different speakers coming in about Charles came and spoke a couple of times. I had patent attorneys speak. I had marketing people come and speak. So I developed Invent Alabama as a resource network. So that kind of fell apart. So that's kind of what we're talking about doing, Tony, is kind of recreating Invent Alabama, but creating a garage, Inventor's Garage. I proposed this to, McWayne Center years ago because they have some inventing things down there. Yeah. But if I can, let me share some stories about some famous inventors from Alabama. You know, everybody looks at Alabama as being 48th in education. We're ahead of Mississippi and Louisiana, okay? And but we got a lot of famous inventors from Alabama. For example, did you know cortisone was invented in Alabama?
By Percy Julian. Thank goodness. Wow.
We all know about George Washington Carver processing peanuts and makeup. William Burroughs invented the calculator and adding machine. He finished his life out down in Central Alabama. But let me tell you about some famous inventions. The automatic windshield wiper, was invented by Mary Anderson in 1903 in downtown Birmingham. She used to ride with her husband in the trolley car to clean off the windshield. She invented the automatic windshield wiper. The Super Soaker water gun. Lonnie Johnson from Tuskegee, Alabama invented that. Multi-million-dollar product, okay? But here's the cool one. I like this one. The automatic, Andrew Beard was a grandson of a slave, couldn't read nor write. In 1897, he invented the automatic coupler for railroad cars. In those days, when they brought two railroad cars together, somebody would have to stand between the two cars and drop a pin between the two cars to hook them together. He invented the automatic coupler.
Okay. Let me tell you something. My son, my special needs boy, who was just in Special Olympics yesterday. He's the apple of my eye. He's the reason I live. I just love that kid to death.
I can't wait to meet him.
He's always giving me a hard time. He's like, Dad, no one cares about your invention. Blah 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 blah. We always have a good laugh. And I'm like, he's like, no one's going to buy that. And he always gives me a hard time about it. And I said, you'll see. I said, one day when you have a 401k and you have money in it because your dad's invention went through the roof, you'll thank me later. So I was like, and he loves trains. Again, he's on the spectrum. He's got some brain damage and he's visually impaired. But he loves trains. He loves trains. Everything about trains.
Really?
And so when I told him that the person who created the coupler, the train coupler, was born in Alabama, you should have seen his eyes brighten up. He's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So I said, it could happen to anybody, buddy. And of course, he already knew about the whole idea that having to get out of the train and actually put the pin in and everything else. Could you imagine? But it's just, I mean, it was great. So I love to share that story.
They actually called that the Widowmaker back then, because people would get killed or lose arms and limbs. But here's the cool thing about Andrew Beard. When he won his patent, he sold his patent to the rubber industry for $50,000 and went on to become Alabama's first black millionaire.
Wow, how about that?
The chipper shredder was invented in Alabama. The variable pitch prop, the automatic transmission was invented in Alabama. The paper sack was invented in Alabama. So I've developed the Alabama Inventors Hall of Fame. It doesn't have a home, but I want to build. I'm talking to Innovation Depot about this now. Is having a wall case of all these different inventions that have come from Alabama that people can see. We do a lot of things. I even heard, and I haven't been over, the modem was invented up in Huntsville by an Alabama guy.
How about that? That's amazing. I mean, it's great stuff.
It really is.
I mean, you really look at, you can go by state and find there's something famous about every state. I get that. But when you talk about some of the things that we use every single day, just the idea that someone, and I think a lot of people also think that, well, if we had invented it, someone else probably would have. Not so fast, my friend. It doesn't actually work that way. But if you do have an idea, and again, we'd love for you to call the show 941-1011, 941-1011, 866-551-9933. Better yet, go to info@missionmindedradio@gmail.com. That's info@missionmindedradio@gmail.com, and write us up. Let us know what's going on. If you have an invention or an idea, we will set you up with Mark Davis, and we can discuss it on the air, and perhaps we can take it to the level. I'm looking forward to actually being one of your first guinea pigs, because I have something, again, that's been working on for about 3.5, 4 years. I'm at the point now where I'm too far in. So it's no or go. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm at a point now where I'm sitting here looking at a prototype of it right now. I have sketches of it, and I know it's going to go. I think particularly for the state of Alabama, it's just a perfect fit, and it's just something that everyone could wear, everyone could use. We're all going to need it, and so super excited about that idea. So I'm actually let you walk through the process with me here on Mission Minded.
I'll be happy. It's going to be fantastic.
Hey, listen, we only have a couple minutes left here. Thank you again for your time. I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. Michael Coleman will be back again tomorrow. We got about 2 or 3 minutes, and I want to give those last few minutes to you just to talk about your faith, talk about your love for Jesus Christ, and just how wonderful he's been to you.
Well, I've been through a lot of struggles in my life, and I don't want to get emotional. I lost a daughter. Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
But losing a child is tough, and you have to lean on God. If you don't, but I know God put me on this earth for a reason, and I shouldn't be. And I'm successful. A lot of people say, "Oh, Mark, you're really successful." And what I tell people, I'm more successful by the friends I've made and the people I've met and the people I've helped through all the things I've done. And that's just a gift from God.
That's beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing your love with us. And I think you knocked it out of the park tonight, man. You should have seen if you know Mark, and there's probably thousands of people out there listening that know exactly about you. You are you are into the details of everything, which makes you a very, very good man in a lot of different ways. And so, Mark, actually, I've been doing this radio thing, Mark, since I was 12. So I'm 60 years old, so I've been doing it for 48 years. And so a couple of days ago, I get a script from Mark Davis saying, okay, this is how the show is going to go. And I said, I tell you what. I'll tell you what, you do your best for vets, you Habitat Humanity. You do your thing, and let me handle this end here. I said, no, but I was reading the script, and my son was sitting there going, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, I got a guest a little bit later on tonight, and he's going to answer some of these questions." So anyway, have yourself a wonderful night. Can't wait to have you back on for Michael Coleman. I'm Tony Kurre. This is Mission Minded on 101.1 The Truth. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you for everything, Tony. Bye-bye.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.